Okay, so someone sent me this today. Hey man, great video, but how does one go on about that? Where is the line between sexualizing someone and disrespecting them? Is it consent? Let's talk about it. For context, the video has me at a pool party with a bunch of other spicy creators, and I'm hanging out by the jacuzzi having a conversation with another guy, talking about how you can sexualize somebody without dehumanizing them. Like you can see somebody in a sexual light or in a sexual manner and still treat them like a human being, right? And thankfully, the other guy is in agreement. He starts telling a story about how he ran into a guy who was being really disrespectful. But the aha moment of the video is that the camera pulls back to reveal that there are women coming up to me to get shots poured into their mouth. That obviously had its own spicy connotation to it. Which, when you see that, it kind of makes you wonder what you're watching. And that's kind of the point. Because you have some people who saw the video and were like, wow, this is really reductive, this is dehumanizing or disrespectful. And on the other hand, you have people going, wow, this looks like a lot of fun, or it's really awesome that these women are so comfortable around you, or pour shots in my mouth too, stuff like that. And I suspect that where the difference between those two groups is also where the answer to this question is. Now, is it about consent? Yes, but that's just one part of it. It's way more nuanced than that. Obviously, for the sake of the video, the only people who were in it were people who wanted to be in it. And the only people who got shots poured in their mouth were the people who came up for shots to get poured in their mouth. But outside of that video, like in real life, there are people who consent to being sexualized. There are people who do not consent to being sexualized. And that can determine whether or not something you do or say is disrespectful. For example, you've got a nice ass. Directed towards a stripper who's dancing on you, compliment, probably appropriate. Directed towards your waitress at Olive Garden, disrespectful, because she didn't consent to being sexualized. That makes sense, right? That's obvious. And so consent does play an important factor. While we're talking about consent to being sexualized or perceived in a sexual manner or looked at in a sexual lens, consent to that is not consent to being leered at or groped or spoken disrespectfully to or anything like that, right? Some people like to show skin or like to feel sexy, and they acknowledge that if they go out like that, people will notice, right? But that is not consent for you to ogle them. It's not consent for you to be an asshole, or to definitely not consent for you to touch them. That's very important for people to understand. Because we're not mind readers, it can be very difficult to figure out who has consented to being sexualized and who has not. Like, where's the line? How clear is it? Is it blurry, or is there a line? Stuff like that. For example, a cosplayer who's got their butt showing. Is she consenting to being sexualized? Maybe, maybe not. Because you're not at a sexual location. You're usually at like a convention or something, right? Because we can't read minds and can't always tell whether someone consents to that or not, I propose that whether or not we should be sexualizing someone shouldn't be the basis for how we decide to treat them. What I propose instead is just everyone gets a baseline level of human decency and respect, like, across the board. And that includes like no unsolicited suggestive remarks. That includes not touching people who don't want to be touched, or being rude or anything like that, right? Not being intentionally inflammatory towards other people because you respect them as people, just as humans. I propose, as I did in that video, that that same level of human decency and respect does not change based on whether or not you sexualize them or they sexualize themselves. I propose that the amount of clothing you wear, fabric, shouldn't determine whether or not someone treats you like a human or whether or not someone treats you with respect. I propose that whether or not you do spicy content does not matter to how valid your contributions to the world are. Case in point, the followings I've amassed on these platforms, which are like, is over like 700,000 people, like my content because of the way that I talk, the way that I think, the things that I say, right? I do spicy content and I still have very valid takes. Do you get what I'm saying? Think of how many people get immediately disregarded because they've chosen to sexualize themselves. This morning, I was getting tips from another creator on how to make better audio content. And then immediately afterwards, she was giving me a lecture on putting more money into an IRA account. Like, you have no idea what kind of like good insight or advice people can give you if you just listen to them. But a lot of people you don't listen to if you know that they do like spicier content. I want that to change, and I want to help make that change. So to go back to the answer to this question, I think that we should make an effort to not sexualize people who don't want to be sexualized because it's disrespectful, it's rude. But even if you do sexualize somebody, or if they sexualize themselves, just treat them with the same respect and human decency that you treat everyone else with. I think that that's my take on it. Because if more people could do this, could understand this, then we could have many more instances of people having fun being sexy or being sexual or enjoying that part of their existence. You treat people with respect regardless of whether they sexualize themselves. You can do stuff like pour alcohol in someone's mouth and then go play Helldivers together or Genshin Impact or something. Y'all could just be regular people, and then being sexy is just one aspect of a fully realized human being. That's how I think about it, and I like my life and I like my interactions with women, and I would want to help other people reach that, especially incels, because they be the main ones disrespecting women for taking their clothes off and then being completely shocked when women don't want to take their clothes off around them. I'm trying to help y'all not suck, okay? I'll see you guys in the next video.